So hello everyone, welcome to this week's YouTube tutorial. I say tutorial, it's a little bit of a pitch, but I am answering some questions for you this week, but it's actually trying to get you to come and join me on a free webinar that we're putting together for you to answer this very specific question. Now, if you're new here, my name is Mike Ingledew. I'm all about making you successful with your integrated product support strategies, whether that's standards, specification, software, or just developing your skills around IPS and quality technical data creation and deployment. Now, this week, I'm going to look at a question that comes into me a lot, which is, what are the alternatives to S1000D? Now, this is often the elephant in the room because, you know, I'm involved with the S1000D working groups and I'm not an official voice or a mouthpiece for them. But, you know, I see all of the work and the energy that goes behind developing these specifications. But the elephant in the room is that S1000D is not for all projects, and it is not appropriate for all projects. It solves a lot of problems for lots of projects. So large scale projects that have lots of data inputs from lots of different organizations, partners and suppliers, it solves a tremendous amount of problems. But the S1000D specification, it's like rolling one of those concrete balls up a hill, is that it takes a tremendous amount of energy to get it going, but once you get it going, it will actually deliver benefit and return on investment. So one of the questions I get asked all of the time is, what are the alternatives? So thank you to everybody who has asked me this. There's been too many of you to call out and actually use quotes from all of your questions. But what I've done is I've just extracted this one, which is kind of one of my favorite quotes that came in to me via email, is that you say you want to do the best you can with the resources available in terms of technical documentation. And can you please share some alternative methods? And you were talking specifically to S1000D. Because there's this misconception that it's the only way that we can do technical documentation, and it is a way of doing technical documentation. So we're going to look at why I'm asked this question. And so I always try to get to the root cause or the genesis of a question before I try and answer it, so I can actually make sure I answer it fully. And so what we have is there's a lot of reasons why I'm asked this question. And essentially, we don't know what we don't know. One of my favorite sayings, and this is because when I do my training courses, I use lots of interactive examples and interactive portals and those kind of things. And I'm always asked, which tools do I use to create those? And it surprises people that they're not S1000D based, because that's just, you know, I'm a small company that needs to get going and just produce the content and deliver it to you guys. But also it's just much more cost effective for me to use software that we already have, that we can create engaging content, and we can then ping it out using commercial off-the-shelf software to an engaging deliverable for an end user. But why am I asked this question? Not all projects have large tech docs requirements. And this is true. You know, we're not all developing things like A400Ms or the new Challenger tank or anything along those lines. Some of us are creating small platforms, small projects that might have a limited lifespan that doesn't warrant us to invest in a huge amount of technical information, processes and procedures. So what we want to do is just create good quality content that we can either implement on the web, we can deploy via a secure mobile device or something along those lines that we can get out to our end users quickly and effectively at minimal fuss and minimal cost. So not all of us have large tech docs requirements. And of course, budgets and resource constraints are placed on all of us, more so now than, you know, with the recent pandemic, the global pandemic. We are seeing lots of organizations now looking at how can they do things better but at much better budget use in terms of, how can we save money? How can we actually produce and deliver business benefit from things like technical documentation, which is something that that I put a lot of energy and effort into. And for many projects, S1000D is just too big. And on my training courses, we talk about the S1000D cost curve, and we talk about why S1000D cannot be compared to original technical or should we say traditional technical publications processes, because there's a lot of work that we need to do up front, and that work is going to increase if we are going to start adopting the wider IPS specifications that we're hearing a lot about right now, and whether they are actually going to be adopted on our projects. So not everybody is going to use S1000D. Many projects will get the benefit from S1000D and the processes and the principles behind S1000D and why we would use it on many projects. But not everybody would gain from using or adopting S1000D because it's just too big. Of course, I've already mentioned that integrated product support is becoming a new buzzword that we're seeing many people on LinkedIn using, and those kind of things, stuff that we've been doing forever, but we're now the IPS specifications. I've got a couple of slides coming out in a couple of weeks introducing the IPS specifications and talking to you about what they are and what I think they are missing, and B, where do I think that projects are going to be able to use elements of these going forward. So make sure you like, share, subscribe for that, because that's coming your way. We're putting together a nice interactive presentation on the IPS specifications. And so, not everybody is going to have all of these large ILS type background to their project. Not everybody has that. Those of us that come from a traditional technical publications process, some of us have to forage for information and data and put those into an affordable technical publication. Not everybody is driving from a 2000M database, a 1388 database, or 0007, or whatever it is that you might be using. Some of us are starting from blank page and a couple of design drawings, and away we go. Let's go and create some technical publications. We don't all have, I think we're just saying the same thing over and over again there, but we don't all have this IPS requirement. And I've added a but there, but we can still actually create technical publications that we can still integrate into these wider IPS elements if we wanted to. So it's important that we understand why and how we could do that. So, and one of the biggest questions that one of the biggest reasons why I get this is because the organization itself that's creating the technical publication is being requested by their user base for something that's a little bit more useful and a little bit more deployable and a little bit more engaging. When we look at the technical publication today, there are so many things we can do with it that we couldn't do even 10, 15 years ago. We can do things that are far more useful to the end user. And we can actually then use that in a business way to help us drive revenues. We can help that to actually increase our competitive advantage. Some stuff that I've done in the past. So I am going to answer this for you over the coming weeks. I'm going to give you an opportunity to sign up to a free webinar where I am going to look at how I produce affordable, low-cost technical publications for those of you who don't need to use things like S1000D, but how can we create highly engaging content that is something that we can deploy on multiple devices. We can go out to things like chatbots. We can do lots of things with the same content using affordable off-the-shelf tools. So I'm going to run this webinar over a 3-week period, and I'm limiting the spaces on this. But who is this webinar for? First and foremost, it is for projects that require affordable modern technical publications that do not require to use things like S1000D. And, those that have limited budgets and want to benefit from having engaging content, engaging technical publications that does not require us to spend an arm and a leg on or selling our latest kids' kidneys so we can actually fund a technical publications process. Those of us who are in publications and in customer support, how can we create this technical content in a much more affordable way? And that's because I'm going to show you how we can take that same content and how we can create it maybe into a knowledge base, or how can we turn it into a chatbot or something along those lines. Stuff that S1000D traditionally doesn't care about or doesn't worry about. But we are going to look at how we can create engaging technical publications, and then we're going to look at all of those outputs that we can get to from our single source. Is something that we used to say in the 80s, but we can say it again now. And of course, if you've asked me for alternatives, this webinar is for you. And those who would like to just learn more about what's the art of possible out there in terms of software, process, tools, and I'm going to show you how I create, using the tools that I own here, engaging technical content. And we're going to learn a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll try as well, for those of you who are in the S1000D camp, we're going to try and draw comparisons to what S1000D is saying S1000D does, and I'm going to show you what it means in a, if you like, traditional technical publications environment, so that you can see that it's not inventing the new wheel here. Stuff has been happening in data creation in tech pubs for a very, very long time. So this is who it's for. What are we going to do is we're going to break it into 3 sessions, and the first session is all about the planning and preparation. And I'm going to be looking at tools and processes. And I'm going to go through the tools that I use. And it's really important to note that this is not being sponsored or endorsed or in any way funded by anyone. You are getting the Ingledew raw and ready kind of look at these tools, because the tools that I show you also do have some flaws. And so I will show you that, and I will show you why you need to work around those. We'll look at the processes and put some groundwork in place, and we'll have a look at avoiding future issues, because if we're creating engaging and content and we are trying to deploy it to multiple areas, there are things we need to consider that we will look at, and we will ask ourselves those questions, so that you can make the right decisions early on how and where you want to go with your technical content. So we're going to put those in place. Then we're going to break down into the content types that we're going to be producing over the next few sessions, and the technologies and tools that we will be using. So I'm going to be using lots of software, but there's technologies behind those as well that we're going to be using. And I'll point you at some free resources that you can go and learn more about those technologies that we're going to be using, so that we are using open standards, open technology specifications that make our life a little bit easier when it comes to customizing or changing our outputs. Session 2, we are going to be looking at the actual content itself. So we're going to look at how can we create the content. So we're going to look at things like topics and snippets and variables. We're going to look at conditional content. So if those of us are coming from an S1000D perspective, what are we looking at here? We'll look at maybe some common information repositories. We're looking at applicability information. We're looking at data module information, if you want to call it what it is in an S1000D environment. So we're actually going to be looking at all of our content types and conditional information. We're going to be looking at supporting media and how can we create engaging supporting media for our content. And then we're going to pull it all together into a deployable, which we're going to then move into on session 3. We will look at how we're going to deliver that content and how we're going to get it out to our end user. So we're going to have a look at our output options. We're going to have a look at our configured outputs. So can we configure our outputs in terms of users or specific product instances or something along those lines? We're going to have a look at the role of the interactive manuals that are available to us off the shelf. And then we're going to look at the deployment options that are available to us. Some of them I've already talked about. So, mobile device, web, we might want to go out to a chatbot. We might want to go to software integrated help. We might want to do anything along those lines. So what we'll do is we'll look at some of the alternatives in terms of not just the technical publication, but how do we get out to things like knowledge bases and those kind of things. And how can we create that content? So how do we register for this webinar? Please do join me on this. I am limiting the spaces. We're going to deliver it via live online sessions, and recordings will be made available to those who are registered for this. We've already had a stack of registrations for this. Those of you who want to have examples of lower cost and flexible content, we are going to be covering that in a lot of detail. You're going to have the opportunity to ask me some questions, and if you have specific challenges inside your organization around technical publications, then you're going to have the opportunity to ask me my opinion and my thoughts, and I'll be more than happy to weave those into answering. And it's really important to remember that this is not sponsored or endorsed by anyone, so there's no clandestine trying to get you to download or buy product. However, that being said, if you register, what I will do is I will send you beforehand a bunch of links that if you want to follow along and download some sample documents that I put together, you can then follow along and try and keep up with what I'm doing. So I'll do my best to make available the software tools and the links. Again, no affiliation, no sponsorship. You will just be able to go and have a play and follow along. So go head on over to our website and do come and join the free webinar that I've put together to answer all of these questions that I get around affordable technical documentation where S1000D is not appropriate for you, for your project, but you still want to create and deliver engaging and affordable technical publications. So there you go, guys. If you want to come along, I'll put the link down below as well. Do make sure you like, share, subscribe. Invite all of those inside your organization along that want to come to this. If you can't make it, but want to have access to the actual recordings, register. And then if you don't attend, we'll send you links to the recordings as well. So there you go. I'm going to do my best to answer that question for you. Hope you found this useful and interesting. Bit of a sales pitch this week, for which I make zero apology. And yeah, enjoy, guys. And I'll speak to you soon. Have fun. Stay safe. Beautiful sunshine here. And speak to you again very, very soon.